Hi, my name is Wendy Pratt. I'm a professional poet, author, workshop facilitator, mentor, editor, and currently working on a novel. I'm making a series of videos called The Writer's Life, and these I'm hoping are going to challenge some of the assumptions around working in the arts. And I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned on my journey into being a professional writer. Today I'm going to talk to you about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? It's quite difficult to define because I think it affects different people from different backgrounds in different professions. Um, it manifests as feeling like a fraud or feeling lucky or having achieved something, and it's not a real achievement. There's a voice in your head that tells you that what you are doing is not valid, your voice isn't really valid, you're going to be called out at any minute. Someone's going to stand up in the audience when you go and do a reading, someone's going to stand up in the audience and point their finger at you, and they're going to shout fraud, fraud, because you don't feel like you are meant to be there. I've experienced it myself in university settings. I've experienced it in the writing world, especially as a working class writer working in what is a middle class dominated field. So I wanted to tell you a few things that I've found work for me in challenging the imposter syndrome. One of the things is that you need to learn to be your own validator. You need to validate yourself. Don't look for other people's validation in your work. Your work is as important as anyone else's. As a mentor and workshop facilitator, I specialise in working with people who are entering the writing world from a less conventional background. They tend not to have been to university, or if they have, there are other aspects that are causing them to not be able to prioritise their writing. So I tend to work with women writers, people who are entering their career later on in life. They might have come to their career after their children have gone to university and they are free to write. I also work with a lot of people from working class backgrounds. I'm working class, I've already said that, to say it again, bring it home. I'm working class, I come from a working class background. And what I've found is that if you are not brought up in a world in which writing or the arts is seen as a career, then it's very difficult to have that voice within you that says that what you are doing is worthwhile, that it might not make a lot of money, but it's still a worthwhile career, it's a worthwhile course to pursue. I found that myself. I came to writing in my 30s and hadn't been to university. I went to university to study microbiology in my 20s because my job needed it. But as far as writing was concerned, I'd always wanted to be a writer, but hadn't had the permission to do that from my own working class background. It wasn't that my parents said don't be a writer; they did actually, but they encouraged me to find a career, find a job initially that was going to allow me to have a nice lifestyle, and that's a very working class thought process. It doesn't matter. Your happiness comes from your lifestyle rather than your job or your career. So, how do you challenge that in yourself? How do you challenge that voice that tells you you aren't good enough? First of all, and the most important thing, and the hardest thing to do, is to stop comparing yourself to other people. Other writers are on their own journeys, they have their own experiences. Your experiences are valid. Creative writing is not just a form of self-expression, it's a way of translating the world that you live in. It's a way of translating your own experiences. You become the filter for the world, and what comes through that filter is your own version of it in your writing, and that version then it becomes accessible to other people when they read it. It's an evolved method of communication, and it's very, very important for people who struggle with other communication. I'm actually very, very shy. I found writing to be the way that I communicate best with the world. And I know lots and lots of other people that do the same thing, that have been through the same thing. So, how do you challenge it apart from this impossible task of not comparing yourself to other people? What we tend to do is especially in the world of social media, we look at other people We see what they are doing and we think that that is the right way to do things. Your default position is to think that what you are doing is the wrong way to do things. You are not meant to be here. This isn't your world. So you look at other people and they're getting on with their careers, they're winning awards, they're winning competitions, they're getting published, and you think, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing something wrong. I need to be more like that person. Your career will take its own pace. It may be very, very slow burning, or it might be a quick rise. It doesn't mean that you are somehow less worthy of publication or enjoying your writing. It doesn't mean that you are less well respected, and it doesn't mean that you aren't meant to be working in the arts. It's just that people are different. We're all different. Comparing yourself to someone else is just like comparing someone playing the recorder to someone playing the cello. It doesn't make any sense. They're two different things. You are completely different to somebody else's. Your filter is working on something completely different, but it doesn't mean it's less valid. So the most important thing is to learn how to judge your own work, and see that it is valid. How to be happy with your own work. It's an impossible situation. You're never happy if you're a writer. And that's part of the process. You want to improve, you want to get to where you want to be. But yet that validation has to come from yourself. It has to be an internal validation. It can't be external, because you will never ever feel validated. You will always see somebody else who is doing better than you, who is further along the road than you, and it's going to destroy your confidence if you keep doing that to yourself. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned along my own journey is to find topics, themes, styles that make you happy. Write what you enjoy. And it's such a simple lesson, but I think we look for the thing that's going to be published. We look for the style that's good, that's popular. We look for the themes that are in the news at the minute, things that are current, and we think we need to write like that in order to fit in, to be part of this publishing world. We see other people getting published talking about these things, but your experience of the world is just as valid. It's just as interesting. And you will find readers for it. It doesn't matter what your niche is, there will be somebody that enjoys your writing, that wants to read what you are writing. So never feel that what you are writing doesn't fit. It fits for you. And if you are happy writing, if you find it pleasurable, you will automatically write well, I believe. I think it's one of the keys to being a writer is to do what makes you happy. It's a simple thing. It's a lot easier to talk about than it is to do. The other thing is, you have to find a sort of a little angry spark inside you that's going to fight for you. You have to sort of treat yourself like a friend. You've got to be a friend to yourself. Imagine that you were talking to somebody who was saying that their voice wasn't valid, that they didn't fit in, that they were never going to make it as a writer. You would defend that person. You've got to defend yourself. You've got to find that little tiny spark inside yourself that says, actually, fuck you. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be here as much as anyone else, and you've got to do that. I call it my working class chip, and it's very strong with me. I do deserve to be here. My voice is valid. The themes that I write about are important. They're important to me, so that just makes them important because they're important to me. Find your own way. Find your own style. Don't copy somebody else's style or what they are doing. Be your own person. Find your own journey. You are on your own journey, and it is just as valid as anyone else's. It doesn't matter if you are working class, if you are a woman, if you are older, if you are coming to writing later in life, you are just as valid as anyone else. In fact, these are the stories that are the most interesting, aren't they? I recently wrote a blog piece about journaling and keeping a diary. I'll link it in the comments below. And it was about how we sort of automatically, when we keep a diary during events, for anyone coming from the future, we're in the middle of a pandemic at the minute, coronavirus, and it is a very strange time. It's very strange to be writing and being a writer, and you have this compulsion to write down everything that's going on for posterity, for the historians that are coming, and there's a compulsion to keep recording the facts of what's going on, but they're going to be recorded anyway. Everyone's going to know in the newspapers what is happening. All the history is going to be recorded and kept safe. But what people are going to be really interested in, what your children are going to be interested in, is your own experiences and your own feelings about stuff. And those are the things that you should be recording. You should be recording your emotional reactions to what's happening in the world. And this is no different to creative writing. Your reactions are important because they come from your perspective. Just because you aren't living in a castle, or you haven't won the forward prize or even placed anywhere in a competition or even had anything published at all, it doesn't mean that your work, your version, your filter of the world isn't important. Find that little spark inside yourself. Find a way to accept yourself and embrace your differences. Your differences are good. Difference is not the same as less than. Remember that. That's a really key thing, and it's the key to validating yourself. It's the key to finding your own worth and recognising your worth in the world. Stay safe, keep writing, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye.